Chosen one. This is not a coincidence. You did not arrive here by chance, curiosity, or routine. Heaven aligned this moment with precision, and your spirit recognized the call before your mind could question it. There is a divine appointment unfolding right now, and the timing is not late, not early, but exact. God is speaking to you because the season of unnecessary struggle has reached its expiration. Chosen one, hear this with reverence. You are standing at the threshold of a supernatural shift. What once required strain, exhaustion, and silent endurance is being lifted by divine authority. The burden that taught you perseverance is no longer required to teach you anything new. The Anointed One does not advance by force anymore, but by favor. As it is written, "Come to me all who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest." That rest is not withdrawal, it is elevation. Heaven is declaring a release from cycles that drained you, a release from survival mode, a release into provision, clarity, and divine acceleration. Chosen one. This is the moment where God transitions you from striving to receiving, from pressing to possessing. What is coming will feel sudden to others, but it was prepared in silence. Anointed One, awaken your faith. The struggle ends where obedience has matured. Heaven has spoken, and what God lifts, no man can restrain. Chosen one. What you are feeling right now is not exhaustion without meaning. It is not failure. It is not weakness. It is the signal that a season has finished its assignment in your life. I need you to hear this slowly and clearly. God does not keep his chosen in struggle once the lesson has been fully learned. And for you, the lesson has been learned. The stretching has done its work. The pressure has shaped you. The resistance has refined you. Heaven is not asking you to prove anything anymore. There was a time when struggle was necessary. There was a time when surviving taught you discernment, patience, humility, and spiritual strength. There was a time when you had to fight for everything, when nothing came easily, when even simple progress required faith, effort, and tears. But chosen one, that season was not meant to be permanent. Struggle was a classroom, not a lifelong assignment. And God is very clear about this. He does not graduate you and then keep you seated at the same desk. I say this not as theory, but as lived experience. I remember seasons where every step forward felt like 2 steps back, where I prayed and still had to push, where I believed and still had to endure, where obedience did not bring immediate relief, only deeper trust. And I remember the confusion that came when I realized the struggle no longer felt productive, only heavy. That moment is familiar to you too, isn't it? When the grind stops sharpening you and starts draining you, that is not a sign to quit. That is a sign heaven is about to change the method. Chosen one. God never removes struggle randomly. He removes it when it is no longer needed to carry you forward. There is a difference between discipline and unnecessary suffering. There is a difference between endurance and delay. And right now, heaven is intervening to draw that line in your life. You are not being punished. You are being repositioned. This is where many people get it wrong. They think ease means compromise. They think favor means shortcuts. They think rest means disqualification. But spiritually mature people understand something deeper. When God shifts you into alignment, effort is replaced with authority. You stop forcing doors, and doors recognize you. You stop chasing provision, and provision finds you. You stop living in reaction mode, and life begins to respond to you differently. Chosen one, this is the transition you are standing in, not from faith to comfort, but from faith to flow. There is a flow that comes when obedience has matured. Scripture alludes to this when it speaks of rest for the people of God, not as sleep, but as divine order. Rest is not inactivity. Rest is alignment. It is the moment when heaven and earth are no longer working against each other in your life. Let me ground this in something practical, because prophecy without grounding becomes fantasy. Think about seasons in your own life. There were moments when you had to overextend just to survive. Moments when you tolerated environments, people, or patterns because you had no alternative. Moments when you worked harder than everyone else and still felt behind. That was not because you were weak, it was because you were being built. But if you're honest, you can feel that those same environments no longer fit. The same strategies no longer work. The same grind feels out of place. That is not laziness. That is discernment activating. Anointed. One God is not calling you higher by making you work harder. He is calling you higher by making you lighter. There is a shedding happening. Old survival habits, old mental strain, old expectations that everything must be difficult to be meaningful. Heaven is removing those weights, not because you cannot carry them, but because you no longer need to. This is also where wealth shift begins, and I want to be very careful how I say this. Divine wealth is not about excess first. It is about capacity. Before God entrusts increase, He removes depletion. Before He releases overflow, He ends leakage. Struggle drains focus. Struggle consumes energy. Struggle keeps your eyes on the ground. And the Anointed One cannot steward elevation while constantly looking down. I have watched this pattern again and again in my own life and in the lives of others. Right before provision changed, pressure lifted. Right before opportunity aligned, resistance eased. Right before doors opened, exhaustion peaked and then broke. That breaking point is not collapse. It is transition, like a runner who stops pushing uphill and suddenly finds the ground leveling beneath their feet. Chosen one. You are not imagining this shift. Heaven is adjusting the terrain. The same effort will now produce greater result. The same obedience will now unlock acceleration. The same faith will now attract support instead of opposition. And some people around you will not understand this. They will say you changed. They will say things got lucky. They will say it happened suddenly, but you will know the truth. It was prepared in the hidden seasons when no one was watching. There is also something deeply personal happening here. God is restoring your relationship with peace. Not surface peace, but the kind that sits in your chest and steadies your decisions. The kind that allows you to say no without guilt and yes without fear. The kind that tells you when to move and when to wait without panic. That peace does not coexist with constant struggle, and God is serious about giving it back to you. Chosen one. You were never meant to earn your destiny through exhaustion. You were meant to steward it through alignment. This is why heaven is saying you are no longer required to struggle. Not because life will be perfect, but because the way you move through life is changing. You are stepping out of survival consciousness and into sonship consciousness, out of proving mode and into positioning. Feel the weight lifting even as you hear this. That heaviness you've been carrying is not your cross to bear anymore. It has served its purpose. And when God removes a burden, He replaces it with clarity. When He ends a season, He opens a door. When He says enough, He means it. Chosen one, settle your spirit here. Let this truth anchor you. You are not behind. You are not late. You are not weak. You are transitioning. And heaven does not transition casually. It transitions intentionally. Chosen one. There is something else heaven is addressing in this moment, and it goes deeper than circumstances. God is not only ending a season of struggle around you, He is dismantling a mindset of struggle within you. Because even when pressure lifts externally, if the internal posture remains the same, the soul will keep bracing for impact that is no longer coming. That is why this word is arriving now. Heaven is reprogramming how you move, how you expect, and how you receive. Many anointed people miss this transition because they do not recognize it. They are so accustomed to resistance that peace feels suspicious. They are so trained to fight that ease feels irresponsible. They learn to survive by staying tense, alert, always preparing for loss. And while that mindset kept you alive in one season, it will limit you in the next. God does not elevate you and then ask you to keep thinking like you are under threat. Chosen one. I want to speak to this personally, not from theory, but from lived moments. There were times when things finally began to improve, yet my body remained braced. Opportunities appeared, but I questioned them. Support arrived, but I didn't trust it. Not because God was unclear, but because struggle had trained me to expect withdrawal. And I had to learn this the hard way. You can pray for relief and still resist it when it comes if you have not allowed your identity to shift. That is why heaven is not rushing you into blessing. God is slowing your inner world so it can catch up with your outer change. You are learning how to rest without guilt. You are learning how to receive without suspicion. You are learning how to let things come to you without feeling like you must pay for them with pain. That is not weakness. That is healing. Chosen one. The struggle season taught you endurance, but the next season will teach you discernment. You will no longer need to push against everything. You will learn when to move and when to let movement come to you. You will learn the difference between doors you must knock on and doors that open when you arrive. That distinction matters now more than ever. This is where divine alignment becomes visible. When God aligns you, He rearranges people, timing, and access without exhausting you. You begin to notice that conversations land differently, that opportunities feel cleaner, that decisions require less anxiety, that the same actions you once labored through now feel guided. This is not coincidence. It is heaven confirming that you are no longer operating from survival, but from assignment. And assignment changes everything. When you were in survival mode, you did what you had to do. When you are in assignment mode, you do what you are called to do. Survival is loud. Assignment is quiet. Survival chases. Assignment attracts. Survival reacts. Assignment responds. That is the shift happening in you right now, whether you fully realize it or not. Chosen one, let me speak plainly. Some of what you struggled with was not the enemy. It was timing. You were trying to access things before the internal authority was fully formed. And God, in His mercy, allowed resistance to slow you down until you were ready to carry what you asked for. If certain doors had opened earlier, they would have crushed you. If certain resources had arrived sooner, they would have distorted you. God was not withholding, He was protecting. Now that protection is changing form. Instead of blocking you, God is positioning you. Instead of delaying you, He is aligning you. And this is where supernatural provision begins to feel different. It is no longer frantic or uncertain. It is deliberate. It arrives with peace attached. It does not demand compromise. It does not require you to shrink, beg, or perform. It meets you where obedience has matured. Chosen one. Wealth in the kingdom is not first about money. It is about flow. It is about supply meeting assignment without strain. It is about resources arriving when obedience calls for them, not when anxiety demands them. And anxiety is losing its grip on you. That voice that once said, "What if it doesn't work?" is being replaced with a quieter confidence that says, "I am not alone in this." You may already be noticing this shift in subtle ways. The panic you used to feel around decisions has softened. The urgency that once felt desperate now feels focused. The need to explain yourself to everyone is fading. You are becoming more selective, more centered, more grounded. These are not random personality changes. They are signs that your spirit is adjusting to a higher operating level. There is also a relational shift happening. Some people will drift without conflict. Others will suddenly reveal their discomfort with your peace. When you struggled, you were relatable. When you rest, you challenge people. Not everyone benefits from your healing, and that is okay. God is not asking you to drag anyone into the next season. He is asking you to stay aligned while He rearranges what no longer fits. Chosen one. This is where trust deepens. Not trust in yourself alone, but trust in God's pace. You are learning that you do not need to rush to secure outcomes. You are learning that what is meant for you does not require frantic effort. You are learning that obedience done once fully is more powerful than effort repeated without peace. This is maturity. This is authority. This is the fruit of the struggle you survived. I want you to hear this. Clearly, ease does not mean absence of responsibility. It means absence of resistance. You will still show up. You will still act. You will still build. But you will no longer build from depletion. You will build from clarity, and clarity is a form of wealth most people never access. Chosen one, let yourself release the belief that suffering is the only proof of devotion. God is not impressed by exhaustion. He is honored by alignment. When Jesus spoke of an easy yoke and a light burden, He was not diminishing the call. He was revealing the method. When heaven carries the weight, you carry the obedience. This is the posture you are stepping into now. Upright, not hunched. Open-handed, not clenched. Expectant, not desperate. And it will take practice. There will be moments when your old instincts resurface. Moments when you feel the urge to overwork, over-explain, overextend. When that happens, pause, breathe. Remember who is leading this season. Chosen one. You are not losing your edge. You are refining it. You are not becoming passive. You are becoming precise. And precision produces results without chaos. That is why heaven is saying you are no longer required to struggle. Because the way forward no longer depends on force. It depends on alignment. And alignment is already unfolding around you. Chosen one, as alignment deepens, heaven begins to test something far more subtle than your strength. It tests your willingness to let go of control. This is where many people unintentionally pull themselves back into struggle, not because God reintroduced resistance, but because they tried to manage what was meant to be entrusted. Control once felt necessary because unpredictability surrounded you. But in this new season, control becomes the very thing that disrupts flow. There is a difference between responsibility and control. Responsibility says, I will steward what I'm given. Control says I must hold everything together or it will fall apart. Struggle trained you to believe the second was true. Alignment invites you into the first. And this transition is uncomfortable at first, because it requires you to trust outcomes you cannot micromanage. Chosen one. I have learned this lesson slowly and sometimes painfully. There were seasons when God clearly opened doors, yet I kept bracing as if they would close at any moment. I over-prepared, over-protected, overthought. I told myself I was being wise, but underneath it was fear dressed as diligence. And fear always recreates struggle even in open fields. Heaven is calling you into a different posture now, not careless but surrendered, not passive but yielded. Yielded does not mean you stop moving. It means you stop forcing. You stop gripping timelines. You stop chasing validation. You stop needing certainty before obedience. This is where supernatural acceleration begins, not because you work faster, but because resistance no longer delays movement. Chosen one, surrender is not a loss of power. It is a transfer of power. You are handing back what was never meant to be carried alone. When you release control, God releases coordination. Things begin to line up without effort. Conversations arrive at the right moment. Information reaches you before confusion sets in. Support shows up before depletion takes hold. This is not fantasy. This is alignment in motion. There is a reason Scripture often connects faith with rest. Not rest as inactivity, but rest as trust. Trust that God sees further than you do. Trust that timing is intentional. Trust that provision is not fragile. When you were in struggle, you had to anticipate danger. Now you are learning to anticipate guidance. That shift changes how you listen, how you decide, how you move. Chosen one, notice how your intuition is sharpening. You are becoming more sensitive, not more anxious. You are picking up on signals faster. You are sensing when to step back and when to step forward. This is not emotional instability. This is discernment rising, and discernment only functions clearly when the soul is not flooded with panic. There is also a financial dimension to this surrender that cannot be ignored. Divine provision does not respond to fear, it responds to obedience. When you were afraid of lack, you overcompensated. You grabbed opportunities that drained you. You said yes when you should have said no. You tolerated imbalance because you feared losing momentum. But momentum built on fear always collapses. Chosen one. God is recalibrating how you receive. You are learning to say no without anxiety. You are learning to wait without panic. You are learning that delayed action does not mean lost opportunity. What is meant for you does not disappear when you pause to listen. That understanding alone ends many forms of struggle. I want to speak to something very real here. Some of you equate rest with regression because in the past, stopping meant falling behind. But that was in survival seasons. This season operates differently. Now rest sharpens you. Silence clarifies you. Space restores you. And from that restored state, your actions carry more weight. Chosen one. Heaven is not impressed by frantic effort. It responds to alignment. When your actions come from peace, they move further. When your decisions come from clarity, they open doors. When your work comes from rest, it multiplies. This is the law of the kingdom. The ground responds to the seed, not the sweat. There is also a humility required in this transition. Struggle made you self-reliant. Alignment invites you into interdependence. You will begin to receive help without shame. You will accept support without feeling indebted. You will allow others to contribute without diminishing your worth. This is not weakness. This is maturity. Chosen one pride often hides in independence, and independence once protected you. It kept you moving when no one showed up. But now God is teaching you to recognize provision when it arrives through people, systems, and unexpected channels. If you reject help in this season, you reject part of the blessing, and that can quietly bring struggle back. This is also why discernment around relationships is intensifying. You are becoming aware of who drains you and who stabilizes you. You are noticing which conversations leave you heavy and which leave you clear. These signals matter now. Alignment is protected through boundaries, and boundaries are an act of obedience, not selfishness. Chosen one. Let me ground this again in lived reality. I remember the moment I realized I was still operating as if collapse was inevitable, even when evidence said otherwise. My body was in safety, but my mind was still in emergency. And God gently but firmly began to confront that. Not through pressure, but through peace that forced me to confront my own resistance to rest. That may be happening to you now. You may feel uneasy, not because something is wrong, but because something is finally right. Stability can feel unfamiliar when chaos was normal, but unfamiliar does not mean unsafe. It means new. There is a spiritual authority that only activates when you stop fighting everything. Authority is not loud. It does not announce itself. It moves quietly and decisively. People respond to it without knowing why. Systems adjust around it. Opportunities align with it. That authority is growing in you now. Chosen one. This is why heaven is removing struggle, because struggle consumes attention. Alignment directs attention. When you are no longer preoccupied with survival, you can finally see where God is leading you. You can plan without fear. You can build without burnout. You can dream without bracing for disappointment. This season will ask you to trust ease without suspicion, to move forward without over-explaining, to obey without overthinking. That is not reckless. That is refined faith. And refined faith produces results that feel supernatural because they are no longer being resisted. Stay here. Stay open. Stay surrendered. You are not losing control. You are placing it where it belongs. Chosen one, as control loosens and surrender deepens, a new responsibility emerges, learning how to steward increase without returning to strain. This is where many transitions quietly fail. Not because God withholds, but because the soul has not yet learned how to hold expansion without gripping it. Increase exposes what pressure concealed. It reveals whether peace is real or borrowed. In struggle, everything is tight. Time is tight. Resources are tight. Energy is tight. You learn to compress life just to survive it. But in alignment, life begins to widen. Space appears. Options multiply. And without realizing it, some people panic at the sight of room. They rush to fill it, manage it, secure it. That panic recreates struggle in a wider field. Chosen one heaven is teaching you a new skill: stewardship without urgency. Urgency once saved you. It kept you moving. It kept you alert. But urgency is not the same as purpose. And if urgency leads in a season of increase, it will exhaust you faster than lack ever did. Purpose, on the other hand, moves steadily, calmly, and with intention. This is why God is slowing some things down, even as He is opening others up. Not to frustrate you, but to train you. Expansion without training collapses. Promotion without preparation destabilizes. God is not interested in overwhelming you with blessing. He is interested in establishing you within it. Chosen one, notice how your pace is changing. You are not rushing decisions the way you used to. You are weighing them differently. You are less reactive, more discerning. This is not hesitation. This is wisdom forming. Wisdom does not hurry. It sees, it senses, it waits until the moment aligns. I want to speak honestly here. There is a temptation in this season to prove that the struggle is truly over by doing more, earning more, producing more. But that urge often comes from old survival wiring, not from faith. God does not need you to validate His work by overexertion. He needs you to trust it by obedience. Chosen one. Let me bring this into everyday life. Think about how you relate to your schedule now. There was a time when every free hour felt dangerous, like wasted potential. You packed your days to avoid falling behind. But now you are learning that margin is not laziness. Margin is where discernment speaks. Margin is where strategy forms. Margin is where God whispers. Wealth in the kingdom is not built on exhaustion. It is built on clarity. When your mind is not crowded by pressure, you can see opportunities others miss. When your energy is not drained by anxiety, you can execute with precision. When your spirit is not weighed down by fear, you can wait without losing momentum. Chosen one. This is why heaven is refining how you relate to work. You are being trained to move from effort-based productivity to assignment-based productivity. Effort asks, how much can I push today? Assignment asks, what is actually required of me now? That question alone eliminates unnecessary struggle. There is also a relational component to this stewardship. As increase comes, more voices will appear, more opinions, more advice, some helpful, some distracting. Not every suggestion deserves your attention. Not every opportunity deserves your yes. Discernment is the gatekeeper of alignment, and discernment requires silence, not noise. Chosen one. You are learning to hear God more clearly because your life is becoming less cluttered, and clarity will offend those who benefited from your confusion. When you struggled, people could insert themselves easily. When you are aligned, access becomes selective. That is not pride, that is protection. There may be moments in this season where you feel a strange grief, not for what you lost, but for how long you lived under unnecessary pressure. You may look back and realize how much energy was spent bracing for outcomes that never happened. Allow that grief to pass. Do not dwell there. It is simply the mind releasing an old survival identity. Chosen one heaven is not asking you to forget where you came from. It is asking you not to live there anymore. Gratitude honors the past. Attachment recreates it. You honor the struggle by letting it end. This is also where generosity changes form. In struggle, generosity costs you deeply. It feels like sacrifice. In alignment, generosity flows. It no longer depletes you. It multiplies. You give without fear of lack. You share without anxiety. This is one of the clearest signs that a season has shifted. I want to be clear, generosity is not only financial, it is emotional, it is spiritual, it is relational. You are becoming more available without being drained, more open without being exposed, more present without being overwhelmed. That balance only comes when struggle loosens its grip. Chosen one. Some of you are being repositioned publicly after long seasons of invisibility, and with visibility comes vulnerability. But God is covering you differently now. What once overwhelmed you will no longer overpower you. The same spotlight that once intimidated you will now confirm what God has already established in private. This is where self-trust is restored, not arrogance, not self-reliance, but a quiet confidence that says I can steward what God gives me without falling apart. That confidence is earned. It comes from surviving what you did and still choosing alignment over bitterness. Chosen one, notice how your reactions are changing. You are less triggered, less defensive, less reactive. These are not small things. They are evidence that your nervous system is healing alongside your spirit. God does not only want to bless your future, He wants to heal your present. This season will not be loud. It will not announce itself with fireworks. It will reveal itself through stability, through consistency, through peace that holds under pressure. That is how you will know the struggle has truly ended, not because life has no challenges, but because challenges no longer destabilize you. Chosen ones, steward this well. Do not rush to label it. Do not overanalyze it. Live it. Walk it out. Let the alignment settle into your bones. Because when stability becomes your baseline, heaven can trust you with more. You are not being tested to see if you can survive. You are being trained to see if you can sustain. Chosen one, now comes the moment where heaven asks you to walk differently, not because everything around you has changed, but because you have. This is where identity settles. Not the identity you fought to protect in struggle, but the one God formed quietly beneath it. When struggle ends, excuses lose power. You are no longer defined by what you survived, but by how you steward what you've been given. There is a sacred responsibility in this. God does not remove struggle simply to make life easier. He removes it to make life clearer. Clarity exposes truth. It reveals what you actually want, what you are actually called to, and what no longer belongs in your hands. Some things will fall away without effort. Others will require a conscious release. Both are part of obedience. Chosen one. Many people fear this stage more than struggle itself. Struggle gives you something to blame. Alignment gives you ownership. When things are hard, it's easy to say, "This is why I can't move forward." When the burden lifts, the question becomes, "What will I do now?" That question is not a threat. It is an invitation. I remember the unsettling quiet that came when a long season of resistance finally ended. No chaos, no drama, just space. And in that space, God began to ask me different questions. Not can you endure, but can you choose? Not will you survive, but will you obey? That shift was sobering. Freedom requires maturity. Ease demands integrity. Chosen one. This is where obedience becomes subtle. There are no emergencies forcing your hand, no crises demanding immediate action. You must now choose alignment without pressure. You must decide based on conviction, not fear. That is the mark of a transformed life. Some of you are realizing that you no longer resonate with the version of yourself that was always fighting. You are calmer, more intentional, less reactive, and part of you wonders if you are losing your edge. You are not. You are gaining clarity. An edge sharpened by peace cuts deeper than one forged by panic. Heaven is watching how you move now, not to judge you, but to entrust you. God observes whether you rush back into old patterns out of habit, or whether you pause and listen. He sees whether you rebuild your life around rest, truth, and alignment, or whether you fill every quiet moment with noise to avoid responsibility. Chosen one. There is a temptation in this season to revisit old struggles out of familiarity, to re-engage old battles just to feel needed, to stay busy so you don't have to face the weight of choice. Resist that. You are not meant to recreate what God has already resolved. This is also where integrity becomes central. When struggle was loud, integrity was tested publicly. Now it is tested privately. Who you are when no one is pressing you reveals who you have become. Do you still honor your word? Do you still protect your time? Do you still seek God when there is no fire to put out? Chosen one, this is where destiny quietly takes shape. Not in dramatic breakthroughs, but in daily decisions made from peace. The life you are stepping into will be built on consistency, not crisis. On obedience, not adrenaline. On alignment, not reaction. Let me speak plainly. Some blessings delay because people romanticize struggle. They believe pain keeps them humble. They believe pressure keeps them sharp. But humility comes from truth, not exhaustion. Sharpness comes from clarity, not chaos. God does not need you wounded to keep you faithful. You are allowed to enjoy what God gives you. You are allowed to breathe without guilt. You are allowed to build without fear of collapse. These permissions are holy. They are part of your inheritance. Chosen one, there will still be challenges. This is not a promise of ease without resistance, but the resistance will no longer define you. It will not dominate your thoughts or drain your spirit. You will meet challenges with steadiness, not panic, with wisdom, not desperation. Notice how your prayers are changing. They are less frantic, less urgent, more grounded. You are no longer begging for rescue. You are asking for direction. That alone shows how far you have come. Heaven is pleased with this posture, not because you are perfect, but because you are present, because you are listening, because you are no longer trying to force outcomes God has already prepared. Chosen one. The season of unnecessary struggle is not just ending around you, it is ending within you, and that is the true miracle. When the inner war ends, the outer world rearranges naturally. When fear loosens its grip, provision flows more freely. When peace takes root, clarity multiplies. You are stepping into a life where obedience feels lighter, not heavier, where faith feels steady, not strained, where progress feels natural, not forced. This is what alignment produces. This is what surrender unlocks. Do not rush to explain this season to anyone. Let it speak for itself. Let your steadiness testify. Let your clarity answer questions. Let your peace confuse those who only understand chaos. Chosen one, you are not becoming passive. You are becoming grounded. You are not losing ambition. You are refining it. You are not stepping back. You are stepping into a rhythm that can sustain what God is bringing. And what God is bringing will not require you to bleed for it. It will require you to be aligned for it. Stay here. Walk slowly. Listen deeply. Obey clearly. The struggle has ended because the foundation has been laid. And now heaven trusts you to build without breaking. This is not the end of your journey. It is the end of striving against it. Chosen one, as this word comes to rest in your spirit, receive this truth with reverence. Nothing you have heard today is delayed. Heaven has already released the command, and what God has set in motion cannot be reversed. You are not approaching your breakthrough. You are standing inside your kairos moment, the exact appointed time written before you ever prayed for it. Anointed one, the struggle has ended because alignment has begun. The weight has lifted because the transfer has been authorized. What once resisted you is now being rearranged for you. Divine favor is going ahead of you. Provision is responding to obedience. Peace is guarding your next steps. This is not hope for someday. This is confirmation for now. May your spirit remain steady. May your discernment stay sharp. May gratitude rise before manifestation and faith remain firm even as heaven completes what it has already started. Walk forward without fear. Rest without guilt. Receive without striving. What is meant for you will not miss you. Chosen one, stay faithful, stay aligned, stay yielded to the flow of the anointing. The days ahead will speak for themselves. And if your spirit bears witness to this word, you may quietly seal it by subscribing, by sharing, or by leaving a simple comment with your city as a testimony that heaven knows your location. Go in peace. Go in confidence. Go knowing this, the transfer is in motion and your season has changed.